everyone, welcome to another Underrated Film Saturday, and today I thought it would be interesting to discuss another animated film that I believe is way to movies that revolve around being animated and for children. And it is also one that is from the Walt Disney Studio Company. And that is, as you can see by the title, is The Great Mouse Detective. Now, the interesting thing about The Great Mouse Detective, and one of the reasons why it is probably overlooked, like also the other animated films that came out around this time that it came out in the 80s, animation wasn't really at its strong point until really 1989 with The Little Mermaid, as well as with other classics that were starting to sort of resurge animation. Who Framed Roger Rabbit being another example. So I would say that this one is definitely one that is, I think, overlooked. And I think it is really because of the time period that it came out in, because the time period it came out in was not a stellar time for animation, especially for children, since animation was mostly kept in the undergrounds until the Walt Disney Studio revived it and kept the art form going. So that's really, I think, something that is important to note about this film and why I think a lot of people overlook it. Also, it doesn't have a lot of the traditional Disney that we expect. I will say actually too that not a whole lot of the songs are as memorable, but the villain song being the best song, I think, out of the bunch. So that might be another reason too. Again, it doesn't have all of these catchy little numbers like in The Little Mermaid or in Beauty and the Beast or Aladdin. So yeah, it doesn't have the musical touch, but it definitely has a lot of good things to it that I think definitely make up for the lack of music. Even though there is music within it, it's sort of far in between, and if anything, the one that stands out the most, at least to me, is the villain song, because it is well orchestrated. It's just songs I don't think were really a primary focus for this film, especially when you're trying to satirize someone like Sherlock Holmes. So yeah, I mean, you could make a Sherlock Holmes musical, but I don't know how well that would go. But anyway, so what I think makes this film so good is the interaction between the hero and the villain. So we got the hero, who is basically a mouse version of Sherlock Holmes. Like, he's super intelligent. He's very I guess you could say sarcastic at times, and he has this tenaciousness about him too. So he's just one of those all around kind of great heroes, and is, I think, a perfect sort of, I guess you could say, representation of Sherlock Holmes, but in mouse form. But I don't think it directly borrows from Sherlock Holmes, because again, when you're putting mice in replace of human beings as characters, yeah, you're really not going to take a huge amount of seriousness when it comes to constructing your characters. So he is a perfect, I guess, satire of Sherlock Holmes. Not of Sherlock Holmes, the character. Or, again, he's a good satirization of the character, but not the actual character himself. Like, they didn't copy Sherlock Holmes completely, but I think they do try to put in these kinds of characteristics, but extend it more to making a kind of comedic, fun effect rather than being too serious, which usually Sherlock Holmes is. I mean, he's really solving tons of murders and uh, you know, and again, even the film addresses the fact that the hero does go through a lot of serious moments, but at the same time, most of the film is fairly lighthearted, and it doesn't approach it, I think, on this very in-depth level that Sherlock Holmes does. Because again, this is for children; it's not designed for adults. So again, I think a good example of satirizing a hero that we all come to know, and doing it in a way that sort of reflects the plot, because literally all of the characters are pretty much mice. Unless you count the villain, Ratigan, who is a rat, in case you weren't able to tell. Played by Vincent Price, out of all people. And well done, villain. And when the villain Ratigan comes in contact with the hero, this is where we get the best moments, the best scenes, and really we do get the center focus of the plot. Because really the plot starts off that it involves this girl mouse whose dad mouse is captured, and ultimately it's up to Sherlock Holmes mouse to save the day. And that's really where the focus deters more to the villain and the hero sort of fighting against each other and going against their egos. So that's more of the heart of the film, even though it initially doesn't present itself that way, because the first scene we literally see is of the girl's father being captured. And although they try to emphasize the whole point that the little girl does play sort of a role in the plot, she's definitely not the focus. The focus is largely on the hero and the villain, who ultimately help or harm the girl mouse. So that's really at the heart of the film. And yes, this film is goofy at times. And yes, it kind of goes a little bit on the adult route of humor. I think this is where Disney animators were probably like, okay, we got to make this seem like it's for adults. So let's put in a showgirl mouse scene, and yeah, that'll get people to think that this is somehow for adults. Because literally, I'm not kidding you. There's literally and the song that ends up playing in that scene is very big on innuendo there. So yeah, even though again their primary audience is children, they still kind of throw in these kinds of adult scenarios. And I think this is what, again, a time within animation where animators were like, oh, probably not going to make a whole lot of money on this, but we're going to throw everything that we can on the wall and see if something sticks. And I think that's ultimately why they put in such kind of an adult, like literally an adult song within a kid's film, because I think they were trying to gravitate towards pulling in that adult audience, especially when you're satirizing somebody as famous as Sherlock Holmes. So, yeah. And you'll see how ultimately the plot and the capture that the villain makes of the little girl's dad ends up playing sort of a role in his ultimate plot, which is to sort of take over the mouse kingdom, and it involves a robot queen. I'm not kidding you. It is that goofy and out there and outrageous. But that's really the plot, and I kind of don't want to give that aspect away because I think that's a very important part to the story, so I don't want to drift into the spoiler territories here with that one, but you'll see how ultimately all the things kind of connect together if you choose to watch the film. But I think not only does the hero and the villain stand out, but also you see uh, good Disney animation, good good sound effects even too, and even really well done intense moments that I think definitely lend itself to something of value. Um, is and again, I think another thing too is that, again, not only is it the songs, but the film's kind of tone is not really the same as what we would expect something out of Disney, because usually Disney is fairly cheery. It's cheery on a level of um, it's cheery to the point where you can accept its kind of, grandeur, and you can sort of feel the genuine happiness coming over you. With this film, it's just designed more to, I think, be very kind of just goofy and eccentric, and at the same time bring in some dark elements. But again, it doesn't really feel like something that would really come out of Disney. I could easily see this being a Don Bluth film, actually, even though the animation is not really like Don Bluth's, although it is similar at times. So again, I think I think Disney kind of knew this at the time, especially considering that Don Bluth was the only one that was really trying. And so they thought, heck, why don't we make one about mouses and having their own little world and stuff? And hey, how about we make it seem kind of like, historical, but somewhat taking a fictional, uh, character that a lot of people know and kind of satirizing it. It seems like they did do their research as far as marketing is concerned, but I think it was hard to tell because it didn't feel like something that would come out of Disney. But even though it doesn't have the traditional elements uh, within the film, it still showcases the characters and the plot in a very straightforward but yet intriguing sort of way. And I think it really works to the film's advantage. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Is it as stellar as maybe something like Beauty and the Beast that gets your emotions all, all out there, and you really feel something at the end of the film? No, this film's not designed to be that way, but it's designed to be a good time. It's supposed to sort of satirize Sherlock Holmes, and in doing so, kind of have a fun little goofy adventure. That's really what this film is, with a little bit of dark undertones here and there. But I think the animators did try to borrow, I think, from Don Bluth's ideas and what he was doing with animation at the time. And I think they realized that they lost one of their greats, because I think Don Bluth actually did work for Disney before he quit to start his own animation studio. So again, it clearly shows, like, you can see like the time period, kind of like what was going on within animation. And again, even though Don Bluth was making animated films, the only real three that really people remember are Land Before Time, American Tail, and Secret of Nim, if anything. And that's all people really remember from Don Bluth's animation, at least from what I really remember and what I genuinely grew up with. And even though I didn't see The Great Mouse Detective growing up, I will say that it is, I think, one of those Disney films that got pushed under the bus because they didn't stay true to their form. But despite not staying true to their form, I think they still got a good product at the end of the day. But I think that's really ultimately all I can say about it without giving too much away. But again, if there are any questions, comments, concerns, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all have a pleasant day, week, month, and year, and I hope to see you all in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.